Hello everyone, welcome to Soumya Tutorials. So first, introduction of what is a program, what is a software, and what is programming languages. First of all, what is a program, or we can also call it as a programming. So it is a process of creating the set of instructions that tells a computer how to perform a task. So this is a definition of a program. So for example, we have to adding the any two numbers so that we have to writing the program for this operation. So that it is a process of creating a set of instructions that tells computer how to perform a task, any task. What is a software? A software, it is also a set of instructions, data, and also a program used to operate computers and execute some specific task. So this is a definition of a software. In simply, we can call it as a set of instructions which are doing some specific task. This is also software. What is a programming language? So languages, we already know that the Kannada, English, Urdu, Hindi, or anything same as like that. Here also programming languages. This is the computer understandable languages. So that the definition is the languages that are used to write a program or a set of instructions are called programming languages. In other words, it is a language that are communication between the user and the computer. That are also we can call it as a programming languages. So there are two different types of programming paradigm. One is the procedural oriented programming. One more it is object oriented programming. Then what is a procedural oriented programming and object oriented programming? So here there are some of the differences between what are a procedural oriented programming and what are the object oriented programming. So based on some case like a definition or an approach or division or an inheritance supported or not, or an access controls are supported or not, that hiding concept is there or not, and some of the examples. So that the first key is that definition. So expansion of the OOP, which means object oriented programming. In the procedural oriented programming, in simply we can call it as a POP. Its expansion is that procedural oriented programming. So this is a based on the definition. That means an expansion of the OOP and also the POP. This is a first thing. Second key is approach. Either it is a bottom up or a top down approaches. In object oriented programming, it follows bottom up approach. First, we have to writing some classes and some functions, then writing the main program. So this concept it is called as bottom-up approach. So in this, the procedural oriented programming, it follows the top-down approaches, which means that first we have to writing the main function, then writing the sub-functions. This is called as top-down approach. So main functionality, which means every program execution must be starts with the main function. So that based on a main function, so that approaches which are the bottom up approach and also the top down approaches. Third key is the division. In object oriented programming, the large programming which is divided into the objects and their interactions. In procedural oriented programming, the large program which is divided into the functions and they also interact. And simply we can call it as in object-oriented programming, the large program which can be divided into the number of units that are all called objects. In procedural-oriented programming, the large program which can be divided into number of units that are all we can call it as functions. So they are interact with each other. In object-oriented through an object, in procedural-oriented through an functions. Then The fourth key is inherited, supported or not. In object-oriented programming, inheritance is supported. So what is an inheritance? Inheritance is a process of acquire properties of one object to acquire the properties of another object. It is called as inheritance. This concept is supported here. In procedure-oriented programming, inheritance is not supported. Then, based on access control, which is also called as access specifier, or we can also call it as a access modifiers. In object-oriented programming, access control is supported via some access modifiers. So what are access modifiers? For example, private, public, and also protected. In procedural-oriented programming, there is no access modifiers are supported. Then, based on the data hiding concept. So data hiding, we can also call it as encapsulation. In object-oriented programming, encapsulation is used to hide the data. So this is a major application in object-oriented programming. Data hiding concept is present here. In the procedural-oriented programming, no data hiding concept is present, data which is globally accessible. Then the last point, examples. Examples for the procedural-oriented programming: C++, Java, VB, C#, Python, .NET. So these are all the some of examples for procedural oriented programming. So object oriented programming, C programming, Pascal. These are all the some of the procedural oriented programming examples. Then we move on to the next slide. Basic concepts of object oriented programming. So first of all, what is an object? So an object in the real world entity. So what are a real world entity? Either we can see in a pen or chair or table or in a student or anything else. That all we can call it as a real world entity. So entity, which means any things. So things such as a pen, chair, table, etc. So that all we can call it as an object. What is object oriented programming? Object oriented programming, it is a methodology to design a program using classes and also objects. This type of programming language is called object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming, it is a methodology. That means a procedure to design a program using classes and objects. So it is a procedure to design a program. ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಏನೇನು? ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಓರಿಯೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್. So there are some basic concepts of an object programming languages. These are all. The first is object, second is a class, third is a data abstraction, fourth is a data encapsulation, fifth is an inheritance, sixth is a polymorphism, and seventh is a dynamic binding. So these are all some basic concepts of object-oriented programming. This is a very important question. So 5-mark question. Explain or what are the basic concepts of object-oriented programming in Java. Next, one by one, explain ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ. First one, what is an object? Already I told that object, it is a real world entity. That is one definition. So one more, it is also there. Any entity that has a state and behavior, it is known as an object. So ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಥಿಂಗ್ಸಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದರದೇ ಆದಂಥ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರದೇ ಆದ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್, ಅದರದೇ ಆದ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So one more definition is also there. Instances. What is an instances? Properties. The properties of a class or the instances of a class, it is also called object. So examples for the objects which are chair, pen, table, keyboard, bike, etc. ಸೊ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದರದ್ದೇ ಆದಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಚೇರ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಥಿಂಗ್, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಹಾರ್ಡ್, ತುಂಬ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆದಂಥ ಶೇಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರದ್ದೇ ಆದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ತರ ಪೆನ್ ಯಾವ ಕಲರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವ ಶೇಪಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಕಲರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ, ಲೈಕ್ ಅನ್ ಬ್ಲೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್. ಸೊ ಲೈಕ್ ದ ಕೀಬೋರ್ಡ್, ಸೊ ಕೀಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೀಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದೆನ್ ಅದು ಕೀಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೀಬೋರ್ಡ್ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ತರದ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್? Collection of objects, it is called as a class. It is a logical entity. Then one more definition is also there. A class is a set of objects with similar properties and common behavior and common link to the other object. This is a definition of an class. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನೇನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ set of objects with similar properties, ಒಂದೇ ತರದ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್, ಒಂದೇ ತರದ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್, ಸೇಮ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್, then common link to the other object. So ಬೇರೆದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. So this is called as a class. So one more definition is also there. Class is a user defined data type. So which specifies what type of a data and what type of the functions which are present in that class. This is also a definition of a class. Then next, here is an example. So first, class. What's the class name here? First example, fruit. Fruit it is a one class. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮನ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಸೇಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ದೆ ನಾನು. ಸೊ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಆಪಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಎ ಫ್ರೂಟ್, ಬನಾನಾ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಎ ಫ್ರೂಟ್, mango it is also a fruit. So these are all some of the objects which are under the category fruit. Then one more example is also there. Class is a car. Here the objects is Volvo, Audi and Toyota. So Volvo, Audi and Toyota, these are all the objects which are under the class is car. So this is real world examples for the classes and objects. Next one. Third is data abstraction. What is a data abstraction? Act of representing essential features without including any background details. This is a definition of a data abstraction. The act of representing essential features without including any background details. ಸೊ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಡಾಟಾ ಅಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದರ ಫೀಚರ್ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ತಗೋತೀವಿ. ಅದ್ರ ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಏನ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಯಾವುದೇ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ನಮ್ಮ ರಿಯಲ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೇಳೋಣ. ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫ್. ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಿರೋದೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ ತಗೋತೀವಿ, ಫೋಟೋ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಫೋಟೋ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಫೋಟೋ ಹೇಗ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ ಮಾತ್ರ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇದರ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಹೇಗ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಇರೋ ಆ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. So that it simply provides a number of buttons and switches to control operations needed to take in a photograph. In fact, these buttons make the working so easy. But anybody could operate the camera, even though he or she may not wear the technology. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಯಾರು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಬಟ್ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದ್ರ ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫ್. So this is one example. So one more example, the car. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಾರು, ಬೈಕ್, ಸ್ಕೂಟೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ರೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಓಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸಲೇಟರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ದಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಕೂಟಿ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಗೇರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹಾಕ್ದಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸೊ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಗಾಡಿ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಗೇರ್ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ಅದ್ರ ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಲಿಂಕೇಜಸ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನಾವ್ ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೇನ್ ಬೇಕೋ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ತಿಳ್ಕೊತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ರಿಯಲ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಆಸ್ ಅ ಡ್ರೈವರ್ ಯು ನೋ how to start the car by pressing the start button, and internal details of an starting operations are hidden from you. You don't know that one. So the entire starting process is hidden from you. Otherwise, we can tell the starting operation is encapsulated from you. ಇದು encapsulation ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೈಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬೋತ್ ಡಾಟಾ ಅಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದ ಡಾಟಾ ಎನ್ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸುಲೇಷನ್. Next one, data encapsulation. What is a data encapsulation? So which is also called as a data hiding. The wrapping up of the data and functions in a single unit. Wrapping means joining or combining or embedding. So combining the data and function into the single unit, which is also called as a class. So it will prevent the direct access to the data. ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಡಾಟಾನ ಯಾರು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಹೈಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಡಾಟಾ ಹೈಡಿಂಗ್. The data can be accessed only through the objects, through an methods. This is called as a data encapsulation. So here is that one is a class. The class, it contains both the data and also a functions. Data we can also call as a member variables. So methods we can also call it as a function. It contains a behavior of that the data members. So both we can call it as encapsulation. We can also call it as a data. So real world examples which are, the one is an example one, encapsulation. The example is a capsule. So here is that the capsule binds all its medicinal materials within it. So that is a capsule. ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತು, ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸೂಲ್ ಇದು ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ತಗೋತೀವಿ, ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ತಲೆನೋವು ಈ ಥರ ಇರೋದು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವ? ನೋ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಹೈಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸೂಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸೂಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ತಗೋತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಸೊ ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದೇರ್. Your school bag or an office bag. Okay, so in that is also one example. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಅಥವಾ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವೇನು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್. ಸೊ ಅದರೊಳಗಡೆ ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನೇನು ಬೇಕು ಸ್ಟಫ್ಸ್, ಐದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪೆನ್, ಬುಕ್ ಆರ್ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್, ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡ ನೀವು ಹೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಒನ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆನ್ data encapsulation. Next is an inheritance. So what is an inheritance? Inheritance, it's a process of acquire the properties of one object to acquire the properties of the another object. This is called as inheritance. In object-oriented programming, the concept of an inheritance, it provides the idea of an reusability. So ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್, ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇನ್ಹೆರಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಆರ್ ಅಕ್ವೈರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Process of forming a new class from an existing class. This is called as inheritance. Object of one class can acquire the properties of another class through an inheritance. The existing class, it is also called as base class. We can also call it as superclass. We can also call it as parent class. Then the new class, it is called as derived class. We can also call it as a subclass. We can also call it as a child class. So here is one example. The first is that, so pointer ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ನೋಡಿ, this is a vehicle. This is a main class, that is base class. So in this base class, it has a sum of properties is present here, which extends the one more class, that is car. So car, it is a part of a vehicle. So car ಅನ್ನೋದು vehicle in ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. Car, it is also a vehicle. So this extends the one more class, that is auto. Auto, it is a category. Auto, it is a category of an the car. Auto ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದು ಏನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಕಾರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಕಾರ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಅದು ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿದೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಟೋ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಒನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಕ್ವೈರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ car. The car, it is also one class. It acquire the properties from this, the vehicle class. So this is a one real life examples for an the inheritance. So once again, I'll repeat in other words. So vehicle is a parent class. We can also call it as a superclass of the car. The vehicle, it is a parent class or the superclass of this one, the car. Car is a child class of this vehicle. Then the car is a parent class of an alto, and the alto, it is a child class of this car. This car inherits from the vehicle. This alto is inherits from both car and also the vehicle. So that the car which is derived from the vehicle, alto, it is derived from the car and also a vehicle. So this is some real life examples for the inheritance. Next one, polymorphism. What is a polymorphism? Poly means many. Morphism is different forms. So that polymorphism, which means the ability to take the multiple forms, we can call it as polymorphism. It is a feature of an object-oriented programming where a function can take a multiple forms based on the type of arguments, number of arguments, and also a data type of the written values. This is called as a polymorphism. There are the two different types of polymorphism. One is called function overloading, one more is called operator overloading. So for example for the polymorphism, suppose you want to save the two numbers of one person. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಯಾರ್ದೋ ಒಬ್ಬರು ನಂಬರ್ 2 ನಂಬರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಒಂದೇ ನೇಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ನೀವು ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಯು ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಟೂ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ನೇಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸೇಮ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ polymorphism. The next is dynamic binding. Binding means what? Process of connecting the one program to the another program is called the binding. So what is a dynamic binding? The code associated with the procedure call is not known only at the time of a program execution routine. This is called as a dynamic binding. So in simply we can call it as the connection between the function declaration and also the function call. It is called the dynamic binding. So here is an example. So in this example, we have to defining the void add function in the class gfg. So, and one more function is also there, the sub. So this is also a function definition of the class gfg. ಸೊ ಇದೆರಡು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇನ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ, gfg ಡಾಟ್ ಸಬ್ ಅಂಡ್ gfg ಡಾಟ್ ಆಡ್. ಇದೆರಡು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ we choose a certain function to run up until the runtime is what is meant by the dynamic binding. So the run ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ connect ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So that is the process of connecting the function call to the function definition. This is called as a dynamic binding. Thank you. If you like my videos, please do subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon for the notification of the new videos. Thank you so much.